I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. If I could have a roll call from the secretary, please.
Klett,
Present.
Larson,
Present.
Charles,
Here.
Wong, Sanchez,
Here.
Guard, Wilson.
Okay, all members are present. Could I have an approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about the agenda? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The agenda is approved. And now we have 2 or 3 students here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Could you kids come up and tell us your name, please? Oh, we have 4? 3. 4th is welcome.
What's your name?
Okay.
What's your name? What is it? Jasmine?
Desmond? We have
Desmond.
Desmond, and what's your name? Bailey? And Morgan, and what school are you from? Hackett. Wow. Well, Desmond, Bailey, and Morgan, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight? This over here, honey. This way. Thank you. Ready? Go ahead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is announcements. Who is reading announcements tonight? David Wilson?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here with us. I'll be in charge of your evening announcements. For December 18th, 2018, on Thursday, December 20th, Gaston Elementary will host their 4K Winter Sing at 2 p.m. Robinson is hosting a 4K Winter Concert from 2 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Cunningham Intermediate is hosting 2 band and 2 choir and orchestra concerts, grades 5th and 6th at 5:30, while grades 7 and 8 is at 7 o'clock. On Friday, December 21st, Gaston will be having its 4th annual read-in from 8 a.m. to 10:20 a.m. They would like to personally invite board members to visit their schools and read a book aloud to visit with a group of their students. Also on the 21st, Merrill Elementary is hosting their 4K Winter Sing at 9 a.m. On Saturday, January 12th, there's a Martin Luther King Jr. event at Black Hawk Technical College from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. We have students from McNeil performing a few songs at the ceremony. On Tuesday, January 15th, Fruzen is having his choir concert at 7 p.m. Thursday, January 17th, Todd is having a family night event at 5:15. I hope everybody's getting this. The end of the second quarter and the first semester is Thursday, January 17th. On Monday, January 21st, we, as in the district, are hosting a Martin Luther King event at the Eclipse Center, at 8:30 a.m., bringing Brandon Williams, former Wisconsin Badgers and NFL wide receiver, as the keynote speaker for this event. There is no school for students and teachers on Monday, December 24th to Tuesday, January 1st. There will be no sledding over that time. Classes will resume on Wednesday, January 2nd. The Colac Education Center will be closed to the public over this time and will reopen on Wednesday, January 2nd. Also, there is no school for students on Friday, January 18th, and no school for students and teaching staff on Monday, January 21st, which is the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Several of the Purple Knights athletic teams will be competing over the break. Here is their schedule. Friday, December 21st, ice hockey, girls varsity, 6:15 at Monroe Slice Ice Arena. Ice hockey, Girls JV at 8:15 p.m. Again playing at the Monroe Slice Ice Arena. Saturday, December 22nd, basketball boys varsity 11 a.m. versus Milwaukee Vincent. Ice hockey girls varsity at 3 p.m. at Viroqua Community Arena. Ice hockey boys varsity at 6:30 p.m. at Ponds of Brookfield Ice Rink. Thursday, December 27th, basketball girls varsity is a girls tournament versus Rockford, and that will be to be determined. Also on Thursday, December 27th, girls varsity hockey tournament at 5 p.m. Tri-County Ice Arena. And Friday, December 28th, ice hockey varsity girls in the Tri-County Ice Arena. Basketball girls varsity tournament on Saturday, December 29th at Boylan High School in Rockford, Illinois. And if you want more Purple Knight athletics information and access to the calendar, please visit beloitmemorialhs.ourschoolteams.com. Please make sure your seats and trays are in the upright position, and our exits are located there and there. Those will be your announcements. Enjoy the rest of our meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Okay, now we have our Public Information Officer, Mr. Brian Vissers, is going to do yet another recognition.
All right.
For
Good
Ms.
evening, Madam President and school board members and community members listening online and on our public access TV. You'll remember Dawn from earlier this year. She was the recipient of the 2018 Yale Educator Award, and that was way back in September. She's been busy over the last year. Please join me in recognizing Ms. Dawn Lemerond-Pepping for recently completing her coursework for and receiving her National Board certification. According to the National Board website, National Board certification was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate ongoing improvement in schools nationwide. It is the most respected professional certification available in K-12 education. Created by teachers for teachers, the National School Board Standards represents a consensus among educators about what accomplished teachers should know and be able to do. Board certification is available in 25 certificate areas spanning 16 disciplines from pre-K through 12th grade. The certification process requires that teachers demonstrate standards-based evidence of the positive effects they have on student learning in alignment with the 5 core propositions. They must exhibit a deep understanding of their students, content knowledge, use of data and assessments, and teaching practices. They must also show that they participate in learning communities and provide evidence of ongoing reflection and continuous learning. More than 118,000 teachers across the United States have achieved their board certificates.
Ms. Pepping, thank you, and congratulations again. You were here in September for a wonderful recognition, and now this certification for you. And just thanks for being this kind of a teacher. We really appreciate you. Okay, next.
All right, and then also, I just want to mention we'll officially recognize them in January, but just yesterday, Durham School Services and Central Christian Church dropped off a whole bunch of jackets for our kids. Central Christian Church had one of those laundry carts, 3 of them full of jackets that they dropped off for all of our children. And Durham School Services also provided food and things like that. So I just wanted to quickly mention that, but we'll officially recognize them in January on that as well.
Thank you.
And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vissers. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. And
I imagine we have some people that would like to speak tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll read this real quick. To the members of the audience, the Board of Education is now at the place on the agenda where we will receive public comments on areas of interest that are not on the agenda. The Board of Education will generally not respond or act on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Appropriate items will be referred to administration or one of the board's committees. While the board and district welcome public comments, we as a board also must ask that you exercise care in your comments that relate specifically to district employees or persons connected with the school system. In order to protect the rights of these individuals, the board reserves the right to end comment on such topics. The use of specific names of district personnel may lead to legal liability on the part of the speaker. The board has existing procedures in place to address legitimate complaints against staff members and persons related to the system. The Board of Education asks that each person wishing to address the board has completed a citizen comment card and given it to the board secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Individuals will come to the podium as they are called and give their name and address before speaking on their topic. Each person will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Public comments requiring translation will be given 6 minutes. Michelle, are you calling?
I can, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I have, Madam President, I have 9 people who wish to speak on one topic. I have 1 person on a different topic and 1 who said they weren't sure what topic they were going to talk about.
Okay. So you can go ahead and call them up. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with the 2 single individuals. So I have a Kaylin Vences. Am I saying that right? And if you can just repeat your name and your address for the record at the podium.
Hello, my name is Kaylin Vences, and my address is 620 Bayless. And today I will be speaking on behalf of Tasha Bell. I just wanted to say a few things, and I'm going to start with saying I think it's kind of a travesty how we treat employees of color within this district and how we don't allow them to improve their positions within the district and how we choose to enforce policies when it comes to different people of different backgrounds. And I think as a district, it's important that we make sure people aren't being humiliated and being persecuted so they can feel comfortable within this district and feel like they have a place within, so they can truly help to contribute to help improve students instead of worrying about their position within the district. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I have Catherine Severson. I'm reserving the right. Okay, Brianna Roach.
My name is Rayana Roach, and I live at 1850 Grant Street. I'm here to talk about Jamie Thompson. I kind of wrote something, but now I don't want to read it. I just think Miss Thompson is one of the most motherly figures I've ever had at the school before, and she's always the first person I want to tell something good, something bad, and she always makes sure that we do what we have to do. And she's just an amazing person, and I think that I'm a senior, so I think that every class after me should really have the chance to know Miss Thompson and be able to work with Miss Thompson, and she's just such an amazing person. That's kind of all I have to say.
Thank you.
Sarah Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Johnson. I live at 2357 Lathers Road. I've been teaching for 13 years, all of those years here in the school district of Beloit. I have worked with and for numerous principals and assistant principals in my time here. I can stand here before you tonight and tell you that Ms. Janae Banks-Wilson and Ms. Jamie Thompson are among the top 5% of administrators I've had the pleasure of working with. Tonight, I am here to show my support and give my unwavering seal of approval as a teacher as to how these women respond and educate others when it comes to matters of curriculum, instruction, the code of conduct, general leadership, and school improvement issues. Additionally, when it comes to literacy, these two individuals not only have the knowledge, but they have taught literacy here in our district. I fully respect and understand that it is the purview of any administration to make recommendations for personnel in planning for and delivering of educational services. However, while I know that any school would be lucky to have them, I have grave concerns about what would happen to the high school without them. Their leadership, their attentiveness, and their commitment to our school are second to none. Furthermore, it would be an educational travesty of the highest degree to move not only these administrators, but other administrators at this time in the school year. I can only speak to the programming at the high school that could potentially be adversely affected. But to give you an idea, these two assistant principals oversee and implement the ACT, master scheduling, and they are the two principals who work with our freshman class. I do not support their involuntary transfer today, nor would I support it tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Esden, and I'm a lifelong resident of Beloit, 1715 North Lodge Drive. I'm here to register my concerns about the idea about moving two female assistant principals from the high school staff. I hear a lot of emphasis is being placed on the concept of growing our own and putting students first. This move would be in direct contradiction to both of those concepts. Let's think a minute about the concept of growing your own. These are a pair of Beloit Memorial High School graduates that have chosen to stay true to their roots and put their time and energy back into our community. They could have chosen other school districts where they may have made more money, more stability, and less challenged work environment, but they did not. They chose to stay right here in Beloit, and put their talents to work here for us in Beloit Memorial High School. In my estimation, this is growing our own at its best. They came back to work for the right reasons, but that is only half of the grow your own equation. We should be developing this type of individual and showcasing their talents in order to build the pipeline of future educators and administrators for our school district. This is not happening in the case of these two bright young talents. Let's move on to the concept of putting students first. The two of these administrators put in many hours during the school day and outside of the school day, school activities and other situations, to establish a bond with their students and, equally important, a bond with their student families. They seek to make these connections where trust is built that is critical to making them effective in their roles as student advocates and, when it comes down to it, life coaches. This trust is what keeps that sophomore in school through graduation when the default may have been to drop out. This trust is what keeps those seniors nose to the grindstone when they start to think that college is not for them. This trust is what allows in-school situations to be de-escalated with the mere presence of these two individuals that benefit no one. I don't believe a mid-year transfer at the high school level contemplates the theory of putting students first. A reasonable person is left to wonder, if we're not seeking to grow our own, if we're not seeking to develop our own, and we're not seeking to put students first, what are we doing? Only you can answer that question. You'll have to sift through a lot of big egos, old school thinking, and maybe even a bit of gender bias. At this point, it appears that this body is not only has the fiduciary responsibility to find out what's going on here, stop the madness, and levy consequences to the collective team that created this mess, but you need to be the champions for these young ladies' development, and you need to put students first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maggie Esden.
Hello, my name is Maggie Esden. I live at 1715 North Lodge Drive here in Beloit. I wanted to speak to you all tonight to make you aware of how much of an impact Jamie Thompson has made at the high school as an assistant principal and how important it is for her to continue to work alongside her students. Over the past 2.5 years, I've had the pleasure to accompany her to countless basketball and football games, theater productions, and homecoming dances. I've also participated in Project Accept, Include, and Understand, which she runs at the high school as a way to bring the student body together and give them a voice. It is very clear to see the pride Jamie takes in her work and her students. She is committed and invested in her students' lives, and in turn, they've come to trust her and see her as someone willing to advocate for them. As a former School District of Beloit employee myself, I have attended professional development days that emphasize the need for administrators and teachers to establish meaningful and trusting positive relationships with students. Jamie Thompson has fostered these types of relationships with countless students at the high school and advocates for them tirelessly. I cannot imagine the negative effect it would have on these students to lose Jamie as their person, as one of the people who make them feel safe at school and who make them believe in themselves. I also know how absolutely devastated Jamie would be if she would be forced to abandon her students and the relationships she's formed with them. The students in our district are amazing young men and women, and they deserve the best educators and administrators that we can find. You have one of those administrators at the high school. Please do not take her away from her kids. She goes to work every single day with one priority, and that is to be an advocate for her students. She sees what her students are capable of and expects nothing less. She gives them the support that they need to be successful, but still challenges them because she knows what they can accomplish if they're given the right tools and have someone in their corner. We need to practice what is being preached and put our students' needs as our first priority. Someone needs to be thinking about the students and making decisions that support and benefit them. I hope you as school board members share the same priorities as Jamie Thompson and base your decisions on the well-being of our students. It is your job to protect and support our students, and I imagine you do not take that job lightly. I'm certain you have made difficult decisions as school board members in the past, but this should not be one of them. It's very simple if you think about the students, because honestly, they're the ones who matter most.
Thank you.
Dustin Rondo.
Good evening. My name is Dustin Rondeau, 530 Lawton Avenue. I'm a third-year social studies teacher at Beloit Memorial High School. Whether it's on the agenda or not, I wanted to take an opportunity to speak regarding the potential transfer of Jamie Thompson and Janae Wilson. Both Jamie and Janae have been two of the strongest staff members I've had the privilege of working with. They have displayed consistent leadership, innovation, and dedication to their jobs. In times when our school was experiencing complacency, they both stepped up to provide a breath of fresh air, and they have always done it with a positive attitude. I have seen firsthand the way that they interact successfully with our students. They do not turn a blind eye to misbehavior. They are not inattentive to misconduct, but the way they handle students' actions is through love and through understanding. While being firm, they still maintain patience. They exemplify what it takes to be leaders and role models in a high school. As a teacher, I fully understand that any school needs to embrace change and innovation, but that does not come by removing two of the most capable and innovative people that this school has had the honor of employing. Their removal would not inspire the kind of change that anyone is looking for. To think that it would be a positive change can mean only one thing. It means that you've not had enough opportunities to see firsthand what they have done for BMHS. It means you've not had the chance to talk to the hundreds of students and to the staff that have worked alongside of Jamie and Janae on a daily basis. They are here for the students. They are here to support us all. They are here for the love of the school. By no means am I trying to say that the other administrators or that the school board don't have a solid vision for the high school, and I would never want to downplay the important roles that they've taken on. But I simply do not see how a vision for this school's future would not include two of the most consistent, hardworking, empathetic, qualified, reliable, energetic, caring, self-sacrificial women that the school has employed. To me and to many other staff members at Beloit Memorial High School, this would be more than just a miscalculation or an attempt at some sort of fresh start. This would be a true shame, a step backwards, a real tragedy, and if I'm being completely honest, a move that could result in a real exodus of some of the strongest staff members currently employed at the high school, because a school that actively chooses to eliminate talented, dedicated professionals would be a school that ultimately loses the respect and loyalty of many of us teachers. Before reaching a final conclusion, please consider the impact that this decision would have on the students and staff who have had no real input on this vital decision. Think about what it would mean for the school district of Beloit and for this community. I firmly and wholeheartedly stand by Janae and Jamie and ask that you allow them to continue to prove their value in the roles which they have served so well, rather than making a decision that assuredly will be regretted. Thank you for your time, your service, and for your careful consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Celine. I reside at 651 North Lincoln Street in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. I've worked for the school district for 12 years. I want to express my deepest gratitude for Jamie Thompson. I've known Jamie for about 5 years. We first worked together as restorative practice trainers for the district, and during that time, I quickly realized she was an enthusiastic, passionate, and organized educator. I always looked forward to doing training sessions with her, and as an English educator now, she is my supervising administrator. 3 years ago, she was hired as an assistant principal at the high school, and I was so excited that she would be in my building. I knew she was a former graduate, and she was an intermediate school teacher, so I knew she would be a great asset to our staff. Since she has been here, she has attended all of our English department meetings, and she listens with a kind and critical ear. She offers insightful feedback and asks thought-provoking questions. She takes time to know the teachers in the department and to get to know our curriculum. She is also a constant presence in the hallways, and many students stop to say hi to her or let her know how their day is going. She has built and continues to build strong, positive relationships with students. During the summer, she was a consistent presence at our think tank meetings, and she was instrumental in helping getting the committee organized and tasks completed. I know many students have enjoyed attending the days that she has done with AIU. Jamie has always made time to listen to me with my struggles and work on strategies, and she has given me advice on how to work with students, as she has known many of them when she was an intermediate teacher. She is always encouraging me to come to her so that we can collaborate, and this makes me feel valued and validated as an educator. Jamie Thompson is the most kind, caring, and professional administrator I have worked with over the course of my 12 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. How do you spell that? Probably not how it looks like. R. Sorry about that.
My name is Constance Burrow, and I live at 1442 Copeland Avenue here in Beloit. I am here in support of Jamie Thompson and Janae Banks Wilson at Beloit Memorial, and I am against their transfer. I have known and worked with Jamie for the last 3 years at Beloit Memorial, and I have worked with Janae for the last 2. The simplest thing I can say is that these 2 women are the very epitome of professionalism, passion, dedication, and so very much more. You will never find 2 administrators who deeply care for their students, staff members, and community like Jamie and Janae. They are the glue that holds BMHS together. They are the very heart of our institution. Whenever an issue arises, those 2 women are typically at the helm, dealing with whatever it may be in their firm, no-nonsense, but loving way. If we lose these 2 administrators, our high school will not be the same. It may seem like a tall tale to say this, but they are truly irreplaceable. Without them, we will have lost our heart. Our students, our staff will all be left adrift. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, I have somebody on Fur Drive, looks like Seth, maybe? And what's your last name?
T-O-L-E-S.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Seth Tolles. I live at 1948 Fur Drive, apartment 21. I will be speaking on the transfer of Miss Thompson and Miss Wilson. I am against it, and I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Natasha Griffin?
I'm Natasia Griffin, and I live at 334 Euclid Ave. I met Miss Thompson. Oh, wait, my bad. I'm speaking on the transfer of Miss Thompson. But I met Miss Thompson back my 8th grade year when she was my middle school teacher. And she's been a big support system ever since. She's one of the very few principals I've ever had that I feel genuinely cares about me deeper than the surface of school. I feel like if you let her leave the BMHS, the trust that these kids have in administration will definitely be broken. Thank you. Sorry. But I feel like the kids feel like, I know the kids feel like Miss Thompson and Miss Banks as well. Miss Wilson, I'm sorry. They all have a big impact on the kids here, and they're their voice. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Severson, 1631 Morgan Terrace. I've heard a lot about what everyone has said here, about how truly engaged and what kind of relationship builders these two women are at the high school. I think the reason why you haven't heard about any of this, the other potential transfers from the other schools, is because it is not well known. And I think that one of the things that this district has pounded into the heads of everybody who works and relates with our children is build relationships. And if you're going to walk in the middle of the school year and start treating people as if they are interchangeable pieces on a chessboard, rather than have true connections and the relationships that we tell them they must develop with our students, then you are not putting your money where your mouth is. That fundamentally, we are a district of relationships, and we're either going to put ourselves behind that or we're not. I would not be thrilled about losing my administration at the schools where my students go, and to come in and to shift out the entire leadership of a school in the middle of the year as if it's nothing seems to me kind of bizarrely short-sighted. So as a parent of somebody who is going to have a repercussion beyond the high school, I don't think you've heard from them. I don't think they know. I don't think that and granted, you can make whatever employee opinions or employee transfers that you need to make, but we do have a trust issue in this district where people feel that a lot of stuff happens behind doors, and we know, oh, we're just doing this, and then the next thing you know, something massive has happened, and then everyone says, what's going on at COLAC? So do know that this is not what we say we are.
Thank you. That's all. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight and for voicing your concerns. We appreciate hearing from you. Okay, and now we have the student board member report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lakaya. I'm the student board rep. Today I'm going to start off talking about Bridge and Build. During the summer, me and a few high school students had the privilege of going to Milwaukee, and we met with a few officials, and we talked about financial literacy and pairing that with athletics. We base our learning of financial literacy off of athletics, like I said earlier, sorry. We learn about entrepreneurship, financial stability, and more. We just finished up our video for our website earlier this month. The link to the video is on the school board website if you want to check that out. On the behalf of a few students at BMHS, we are still looking and waiting for feedback about the parking pass decisions at BMHS. And that's it for me. I hope everyone has a good winter break and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for our school board?
I got one from last time. I'm a little slow sometimes, but you made a comment last month about Fs were down 17%. I think was at the high school, or where was that overall? What was that, and where did that number come from?
That was a statistic given to me by Dr. Ramos, our principal, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is a presentation on our 4K program assessment. And we have Miss Rachel Elliott, Director of Early Literacy, here to present.
Good evening, everyone.
Dr. Bonds.
How you doing? Good evening. Just want to bring the board up to speed with regards to the Achievement Gap Ad Hoc Committee that was formed in January 2017. There were several recommendations that came out of the work of the ad hoc committee, and one of those recommendations was to do an evaluation of our 4K programming, and tonight we are here to follow up on that request and that recommendation that was approved by the board. Our Director of Early Childhood Education, Ms. Elliott, is here, and she's going to share some information related to the proposal. Thank you.
Good evening. As Dr. Bonds had said, we are going off of the ad hoc's recommendation to do a outside external 4K assessment, and we are going with CISA 2. And so the key objectives of the assessment is to gather information from a variety of stakeholders concerning the strengths, weaknesses, and the opportunities to improve our 4K programming. They're going to give us actionable feedback based on a variety of standards for preschool education, and that feedback will also help us with tools, procedures, and professional development that our staff may need towards 4K programming. The assessment will happen in all of our 19 classrooms that are in 7 different buildings in the district. It will take a look at 8 different areas of educational leadership and training and areas for 4K, as well as the 7 areas of instructional programming that go along with preschool education. We will get a rubric based on Marzano's work from 2009, and you can see it goes all the way from not in place, whatever the area was, to consensus building, infrastructure building, initial implementation, and full implementation and stability. And it's my hope by using this rubric that we can take a look yearly at our program to see how we're moving along the continuum based on the goals that we have selected. What we will get from CISA, the main researcher is Ed O'Connell for CISA 2. He is also going to be working with Kieran Russell and Nicole Altworth. They are early childhood specialists for CISA 2. Gail Anderson and Dr. Elizabeth Freeman will be working on the systems for support. And Lynn Johnson, Liz Gable, and Jill Kofel from the Wisconsin RTI Center. So we'll get an executive summary for their report, as well as detailed summaries for each of the areas with strengths, opportunities for improvement, and other questions they might have for us. They will give us a status summary, and then they will prioritize the recommendations. We will then have a team that will also look at those recommendations to see where we want to start with this. So what are we going to do? What type of actions? There will be focus groups for all of the stakeholders involved, surveys for staff and parents. There'll be walkthroughs in all of the 19 classrooms, and they're going to review the instructional procedures and our student data. What is the timeline? We are hoping to start in January/February. Report submitted March and April, and the report submitted back to the Students Committee and the board by April/May. My goal is like the first month listed, but I understand when we're working with systems and that number of classrooms, that's probably going to be the second month that we're going to look at. So I am very excited for this evaluation. I think it's going to have the many areas that we are doing fantastic work in 4K and how we can improve ourselves for the years to come. Any questions?
Thank you. Board members, any questions? One, John?
Rochelle, what's the cost for this?
It is about $15,000. When they give us the original quote, they usually do this type of work, $8,000 for 3 classrooms. We have 19 rooms, so I was able to bargain that we weren't paying that initial price. One of the pieces was I wanted to be involved in through this, so hopefully I can duplicate this work with a group of teachers in years to come.
Yeah, Mr. Larson?
Will the report submitted in April or May include like the district's digestion of that report, or is that just right coming from CISA?
That's just coming from CISA.
Okay.
Anyone else have a question or comment? Okay, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have reports from committees, and the first one would be Communication Committee. Mr. Wilson.
Good evening again. So we had a meeting scheduled for December 6th at Beloit Memorial High School, but due to lack of quorum, I was present, Megan Kasike was present, Brian Vissers were present, and we were unable to meet, but we will schedule our next meeting for January. That is all.
Thank you. Fiscal Committee, Ms. Gard.
The Fiscal Committee met on December 12th, and the bulk of our committee meeting was on the idea of using Fund 80. And Mr. Tom explained to the committee how that might work. For example, if we took $75,000 from the general fund and moved it to a Fund 80, then we could reallocate the $75,000 for other activities. The whole concept is to level out the levy. There's going to be some other study done by Mr. Tom and Mr. Bonds as to suggestions on how we might expand our activities. Now, in order to qualify for Fund 80, we have to open up programs that would be open to the whole public, not just our students. And the other concept is to make sure that our levy isn't increased year after year. That's the way I understood it anyway. It's a very complex idea, and other school districts do use it. And Mr. Tome explained how it was used in other districts where he was part of. So we are going to have a full report in February, and our next meeting is February. In February, we are not meeting in January. And that is we spent quite a bit of time on that. And then we reviewed the building usage for November 2018, which is also available for the public to see on tonight's agenda.
Yes. The Infrastructure Committee met on December 6th at Beloit Memorial High School. We received an update from Sean Winters on the HVAC and remodels that are going on in schools at Todd and Merrill. It looks like those should be done with completion in the next few weeks. So we also had an overview of the campus plan, being that there are several new board members and committee members with the new committee structure. We were given a video, layout of the entire campus plan. So we're in phase 1 with the Welcome Center. So we got to see parts of the rest of that potential plan. And other than that, we scheduled our next meeting for January 10th.
Thank you. And Student Committee, Mr. Wong.
The Students Committee met on Tuesday, December 11th at 4 p.m. It was a marathon meeting, 2 hours. We started out discussing the student climate surveys, which were completed at all the various schools, with a variety of results in kind of all over the board. That same survey will be also given in the spring as well, and then we'll have results to hopefully provide a good comparison. Second item we discussed was the district assessments, and this was rather interesting to find out the number of assessments that have been done, and many of them are mandated by the state. But the recommendation is to have a meeting with the teachers to discuss assessments and formulate a plan to come back to this committee with some proposals. The student assessment data, which was provided by Ms. Cheney and was reviewed. She provided a number of graphs and statistical data. We also had a literacy overview and a math overview of the district. The 4K program assessment, which Ms. Elliott presented tonight, was discussed with us as well. And then the last item was the craft screening results report, which is a behavior health screener with a series of 6 questions. So we've wrapped it up. Our next meeting will be, when will be our next meeting? Next month, the 15th, so January 15th, 4 p.m.
Thank you. And there's no staff committee report because they did not meet this month, which is fine. Not all committees will meet every month. Sometimes they'll skip a month, maybe 2, depending on if there's something to address. Okay, now we're at the point where we have the consent list to approve, and I think it includes minutes that I think might have to have a correction. Is that right?
The updated minutes are now in board docs. Michelle made the corrections and
Okay.
re-uploaded them.
Right. So do I have a motion for approval of all the items under the consent list, please?
I move approval of the consent list.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion at all about the consent list items? Okay. All in favor of the consent list. Michelle, are we voting online? Okay. Please say aye and also vote online. It didn't come up. Okay. All in favor, please say aye and vote.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so the consent list items all pass. And now we are at the business agenda items. First one, moving the board business televised meeting in January from January 22 to January 29.
I'd like to make a motion that we move the board business televised meeting from the January 22nd schedule to the January 29th. And I believe it's because of the convention that school board members are invited to in January.
Yeah, the convention, and also it's the day after we observe King holiday. And so it's better to, not have a day off right before a board meeting. So, yeah. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of moving the date from the 22nd to the 29th? Please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, so the board meeting, business meeting for January will be on January 29th. Next item is ad hoc student discipline and governance committee update and possible appointment of new members. Mr. Wong, would you please give us an update on that committee?
I can give you updates on 2/3 of this committee at this point. As many of you may know, it was broken up by the various areas of the school: primary, intermediate, and the high school. The intermediate group met probably about 3 weeks ago. We had a very, very good discussion. I appreciate all those that were in attendance. We had a great discussion. I think we're going to have a proposal hopefully sooner than later. And we're going to have our next meeting this coming Wednesday. The high school had a meeting earlier, I'm going to say last month, late last month, early this month, and the attendance was light, and that's part of the reason we have a new slate of individuals that we're nominating for the committee, and primarily at the high school. We did meet last night. We had a very good meeting. I was there in attendance, and it was primarily staff and security, and I thought that we had a lot accomplished. So there's a lot that needs to be brought to the table there. We're going to have future discussion minutes have been sent out or will be sent out, and I appreciate Ms. Douglas being a part of that with that group. The next item is just to nominate those and get approval for the members that are listed on the executive content for approval to the ad hoc committee.
Okay, and it's my understanding that the members we have listed here have all accepted the invitation to serve?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have, oh, I just lost it there, sorry. Okay, we have, can we have a motion to approve the members listed? And I think we could name their names.
I'll make a motion to approve the list presented for the addition to the ad hoc committee as listed. Mr. Mark Smith, a parent from Beloit Memorial High School. Deb Prowse, Ken Davis, Barb Grayson, Noe Mar Garcia, Tony Capizzello, Chris Labrie, Terry Schindler, and Mike Wagner.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on these appointments? Ms. Gard.
I just have a question. John, it says subgroup. Does that really mean an additional ad hoc group or ad hoc committee?
It's actually subgroup, subcommittee. We did this in the previous ad hoc where we broke up into different groups.
Okay.
This one being just at the high school. And I did, go ahead. I want to answer that question. I have one other comment to add, though.
Okay, that was
Not
what my question was. Okay, thank you.
Did you have something else?
Nope, not
Okay.
after this.
Okay. Dr. Childs?
Primary group has been meeting as well. They've outlined a school-wide management plan. They've outlined level 100 actions that they would like to see taken on a systematic basis. They continue their work. I don't have in front of me the date of their next meeting, but they've put together some product and are prepared to come to the collective meeting of the whole, which will occur prior to the semester break.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion before we vote for these new members? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve 9 new members. All in favor, please say aye and vote online.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, so the list as stated by Mr. Wilson is approved, new members, to the Ad Hoc Student Discipline and Governance Committee. All right, now we have a discussion on ad hoc committees dismissal or conversion. The reason this is on here is because ad hoc committees are supposed to serve a purpose, and when they're formed and then the board gives them a charge, a directive. And they work on that charge, and then they come back to the board and they give us a report, and the board either accepts the report or does not, or accepts the recommendations or does not accept the recommendations. But in any case, at that time, the ad hoc committee is dismissed. They're not kept on for oversight or for any other reason. The board takes the recommendations and the administration carries out the recommendations. So tonight, we wanted to kind of clean up a lot of ad hoc committees that are out there, and that list is on board docs. I keep losing my spot here, I'm sorry. Ad hoc, okay. The list of ad hoc committees that are no longer active are the Academic Achievement Student Committee, the Diversity Committee, the Diversity Plan Committee, the Equity Committee, and Students on the Move, which was the Recess Committee. Does anyone have any, would you like to add anything, Dr. Charles?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. So then we could use a motion to, all these committees have given final reports, it's my understanding. And so these ad hoc committees are no longer active, and we'd like to dismiss them at this time, if there's a motion to do that.
I would like to make a motion to dismiss the inactive ad hoc committees whose work is completed.
As
Second.
listed, correct?
As listed.
Okay.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to dismiss the Academic Achievement, Student Achievement Committee, Diversity Plan Committee, Equity Committee, and Students on the Move Committee, and they have all completed their work. Is there any other discussion?
I don't know if all the work has been completed, but I just think it needs to be revisited.
Do you have one committee in mind?
I know the diversity plan, there's still been discussions about the diversity plan.
Right, but the recommendation already came. So that's what we're saying, is now it's in the hands of the administration.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Ms. Gard?
I would just like to reiterate that what you stated earlier is ad hoc committees are formed for a purpose, and it has a timeline, and when that's completed, then their work is done, but that doesn't mean that they can't be reformed again for another goal. And so because we haven't really taken this action before, I think we should have prior to this. I just would like to comment that because these are now inactive doesn't mean that some of the things that they were working with wouldn't come forward again in another ad hoc committee in the future.
Right.
So, and there's policy to back that up.
And I think it's been done before, but not in big chunks like this. We kind of let it get, it kept building, and we didn't dismiss committees as we should have. So I don't think we've done several of them like this before, but yeah, thank you, Ms. Gard. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye and vote online as well. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the ad hoc committees that are inactive are now dismissed, and thank you everyone for serving on those committees. We really do appreciate it. Then we have two active committees. One is Equality Committee and one is Student Discipline and Governance. And we heard about Student Discipline and Governance a few minutes ago here. And that committee is working on the code of conduct, possible revisions to it, enforcement of it, training for it, that sort of thing. And that is a new committee that is very active right now. The Equality Committee has been an ad hoc committee for many, many years. Michelle, do you know when it was first created?
I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but I want to say back in the early 80s, like 81.
Early 80s. Okay. Dr. Childs, would you like to speak at all about the creation of the...
Equality Committee?
Yeah, about the plan.
The Equality Committee was formed in 1981 and has been a continuing and ongoing committee. And at this point, I think that there is a desire on the part of the committee to clarify the charge to the committee from the board and what it is they'd like to see going forward. I know that the question has been raised a number of times, and I think that probably that'll require some dialogue on the board's part after you've had some time to consider that and think about it prior to giving it. But I would like to think that somehow or other that committee can move forward with a new charge and be reinvigorated.
And we talked about it becoming a different type of a committee.
Well, I know that the idea had been raised that perhaps it could be an administrative or superintendent's committee rather than a board ad hoc committee. And the board knows that it's been my position pretty much right along that many of the standing committees that the board has had are actually committees that are doing administrative functions and probably be better as administrative committees anyway. So that change could occur. I would think that with a renewed charge and opportunity to go forward, that wouldn't matter where it was organized, except that it would be accountable to the superintendent rather than to the whole board.
So if it's a superintendent committee, it still has citizen volunteers, staff, basically the same makeup.
Yeah.
It's just the name has changed. Instead of an ad hoc committee.
Basically, where it reports, once the board has given it the charge, where it reports on its work, that doesn't mean it wouldn't be coming to board meetings to update, because as you know, that I've been working with the board to try to get the board to monitor the progress that we're making as a school district, and this would be one of the kinds of monitoring reports that the board could expect to come back on any kind of a regular basis. A frequency to be determined by the board in terms of when you want to hold the administration accountable for making those reports. But it would come through the committee's work.
And it seems like it would fit, having it be a superintendent committee would kind of fit in with the plan to have the diversity plan be part of the strategic plan. And so it would all be under you.
It would all be under the superintendent, yes.
Right, as you work toward the goals of the plan.
Yes.
And with the people that are helping you.
Yeah, and part of that entails breaking the strategic plan down and looking at some specific action plans of things that are actually going to be done. The goals are good goals, and certainly we support them. We think we need to support them with developed action plans in terms of things, steps that are going to be taken, things that are going to be done on a consistent and regular basis in regard to recruitment and hiring, in regard to board outreach and communication to the community, in regard to student achievement and academic performance, and equity in both instruction and in the affective areas of student life.
Okay, and possibly that's something that the Equality Committee members could work on with you.
I would expect that the Equality Committee would
Okay.
continue to do the kinds of things that they've been doing and pick up on that, yes.
Okay. So we could consider at this time making the Equality Committee still it's the Equality Committee, but just changing from ad hoc to an administrative committee. It would still be the same publicly noticed meetings, same participation, public input, still welcome, the public still welcome at the meetings.
I think the other benefit to it is that if it becomes an administrative committee, it becomes a standing committee of the administration and not just an ad hoc committee that could be dismissed at any point in time.
Right, it takes it away from the board and just makes it part of the district structure so that we're not saying we have an ad hoc committee going on for 30 years. You know, that's not really what an ad hoc committee is supposed to do. So is there a motion at this time? Pardon?
What type of motion are you looking
To just convert the Equality Committee from an ad hoc to a superintendent committee. Just in name, just type of committee. Mr. Larson.
I'm wondering if a discussion has happened with the members of the committee around this change and how they feel about it, because I don't want to give the perception that we're doing something to the committee without their input. I know they take a lot of pride in the work that they've done. So I'm just wondering their thoughts on this kind of before we would really take any action into doing this.
Okay.
And I think that it would be appropriate at their next meeting for us to have that discussion. I know that there was cancellation of this last meeting, but I would certainly be willing to sit and listen to their deliberation on how they see this going forward. I'm assuming we're going to meet in January.
Okay.
It really wasn't up for action tonight, so I would postpone that and have a discussion at a later date and bring it back to a board meeting for final approval or disapproval.
And that's fine. I thought it was up for action, so maybe we could table it. It is an action item. But maybe we could table it until the next meeting. That's fine.
Yeah, if you can table it to your January 29th
Okay.
business meeting, that would probably be advisable.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that we would have to have a motion to postpone it because that committee specifically wasn't an action item. So I think we completed the action and then this kind of led into another discussion.
Well, that either way is fine. We will bring it back in January?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then Dr. Childs can speak to the Equality Committee, and we'll revisit this January 29th. Okay. Thank you. So then the next item is we have a letter of resignation from Ms. Lori Medina, who has been our administrative hearing officer for expulsions. And we need to accept her resignation and discuss how to move forward from here because the resignation takes effect in January.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion to accept the resignation of Lori Medina.
All in favor, or is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Accepting the resignation?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So now if we could just have a quick discussion about where to go from here, because as of January 1st, we have no one to do those duties. And Michelle, if you can correct me if I say anything that's inaccurate, but Ms. Medina is the one who has done the administrative hearings. She's not our expulsion officer. She's the one who does administrative hearings. She brings them then to Mr. Holland, who's our expulsion hearing officer, and he makes the recommendation and brings it to us. Or he brings the order to us. She brings the recommendation, he brings the order. So what we need is someone to do this administrative hearing duty. And I was actually contacted by a law firm who's interested in doing it temporarily, if not permanently, but I'm not sure if we need to do RFPs. Do you know, Dr. Childs?
For this, I don't believe you do, but you may want to look at more than one potential. And if it's going to take a while for you to work through who you're going to look at, there are people available. CISA 2 may have some individuals who would be able to sit on these. Your hearing officer does not have to be an attorney. I know that the board's comfort level would prefer that it be an attorney, but if there is an interim necessary before you finalize a hearing officer, it would be possible to use a retired superintendent or somebody who has done it.
Mr. Wong. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious. I believe we're a member of CISA 2, and you just mentioned them. So are there a number of individuals through CISA 2 that they can recommend or you can recommend so that we will have that information maybe the next time we meet?
I've actually been in touch with the CISA administrator, and last contact was he's looking to see if there's anybody who would be willing and wanting to do it.
And that would be a temporary?
It would be on an interim basis for that part until you settle on a permanent hearing officer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Wong.
Is this a contracted employee or a full-time employee?
I believe it was contracted for a flat rate each month. I don't think we have a lot of time that we can use to, make this decision. We have to make it because we have to appoint someone, because if there's an offense at one of the schools that requires a hearing, we don't have all the time in the world to do this. Mr. Larson, I'm not sure who was first at this point.
I would like to make a motion that we accept temporary assignment from CISA 2 to fill the gap of Lori Medina. An interim until we can, that's what I understood Dr. Childs to recommend. And it's just temporary.
Unless you have somebody on the line who has clearly indicated they're willing to step up at a given price and take over, so that on January 2nd they're prepared to call for a hearing, I would suggest that it would be advisable for the board to have an interim person who is prepared and able to do that until you can get the details worked
Okay, is
out.
there a second so we can continue talking?
I'll second.
Okay. Like I said, I did speak with a local attorney who does this for other districts, who's more than happy to do it on the interim or possibly permanent basis for us, and is willing to start right away. So, it's kind of, Mr. Klett.
First of all, you need to look down the line. I had my hand up to talk before Nora got a second chance.
I'm sorry.
To talk about the law firm of Nolan Mount, which we talked about, that has experience with this. They're a reputable law firm out of Janesville that's done this. I think they'd be a good interim possibility for us, and actually a long-term. They're interested in long-term as well. I believe it's a flat contracted amount. I would prefer to use a law firm versus the CISA 2 organization.
Anyone else? Mr. Larson?
How much time do you think we have, Dr. Childs, to resolve this? Because my problem with the agenda is that it says discuss what to do next, not necessarily take action on accepting, asking CISA 2 to step in or another law firm. But obviously we don't want to hold up the process, for our students and our community.
That's a good point. Let's clarify that, because Michelle, with this board docs, if it's under an action item, I thought we could take, I'm confused myself about the board docs. Are we able to take action on this tonight, or only accept the letter of resignation?
My understanding is that as long as the item has been posted.
That's what I thought.
And given public notice, you can take action at any time.
It doesn't say discussion only, so,
Right.
yeah, but I appreciate that, because I'm a little bit lost.
And it's public knowledge that you're talking about this.
Yeah. Okay, and I did speak with a gentleman from the law firm that Mr. Klett mentioned, and they're very comfortable with this. They do it for other districts. He said they would be willing to jump in right away. And, I think it's our best move, because we don't want to have a situation out there where we need a hearing and we don't have someone to do it. Ms. Gard?
You need to be prepared to have a hearing the week we come back from winter break.
I just would like to comment on that. If we are going to do an RFP, and if we are going to include law firms in the future, it seems to me that we might want to go an interim route, just so that we can get as much information from as many people as possible to make a long-term decision.
That's why I asked if we had to have an RFP. I don't think we do on every attorney that we hire for something, but this would also, you could look at it like this, it would also give us a chance to work with this firm and see if we're happy with the services, if they do it interim.
I call the question. I made a motion. It's been seconded.
Your motion, remind me, was
to accept an interim person from CISA 2.
Okay, so Ms. Gard has called the question, which means she wants to end all conversation on this, and that would require a roll call vote. Michelle? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a second to call the question? Okay. So, seeing no second, we can still continue the conversation. Does anyone else have anything else to say? Mr. Klett?
If I heard it right, CISA 6, there isn't anybody available at this time. They're going to try to find somebody.
The agency administrator of CISA 2 was going to check to see if he had any people who would be available and willing to do it. I would be able to find that out over the spring break. However, it's up to whatever is the board's comfort level. The likelihood is that a CISA person would not be an attorney, but would probably be a former or present superintendent who would do these things and has experience in doing them. That would be, I think, the board's choice in terms of how you do that. I think the other thing is that you don't have to go to a formal RFP to fill this position. You can just contact or have us contact a number of law firms, give us leads if you want, and just say, what would you charge us to do this? Bing, bing. And let them submit whatever they'd like. And if you need a special meeting earlier in January in order to do it, then that's what happens.
Okay, any other discussion? And we will vote on Ms. Guard's motion to inquire about CISA 2 performing the duties as an interim. All in favor, please say aye and vote, and all opposed, please say no and vote.
Why don't you run that back by again,
all in
please?
favor? Pardon?
Run the vote back, please.
All in favor, say aye. Ms. Bishop, I need to change my vote. I hit the wrong one. How do I do that?
I can change it.
Oh, change it, please.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, I don't see it, so. Okay. All opposed, say nay.
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 And which way are you trying to?
Nay, nay, yeah.
I would offer a motion to accept.
Wait, can we say, did this fail? Or did it?
Just keeps flipping back to aye every time I change it, but it would be 5 to 2, or 2 to 5, so it would fail.
Okay, so the motion fails.
I would
Now,
make a
Mr.
motion
Clerk?
to temporarily use the law firm of Nolan Mowat out of Janesville until we make a permanent decision.
I'll second that.
Okay, could I ask a point of clarification here? Would you be saying that it would be the same contract amount that Ms. Medina had, just no changes?
Until we move forward, yes.
Okay. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to use the law firm, and Mr. Klett, would you repeat the name of it?
Nolan and Mowat.
Okay, in Janesville,
Yes.
to be our administrative hearing officer for the same amount contract that Ms. Medina had. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye and vote.
I'm sorry, did I get who seconded? I did. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have the little vote box up here yet. Thank you.
I don't have it.
All in favor, say aye and vote. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion passes, and we will use Nolan and Mount in Janesville to be the administrative hearing officer for the same contracted amount as Ms. Medina. Okay. Moving on. The next item is a proposal for costume designer for the spring musical and the fall play at Beloit Memorial High School. And you'll see the proposal there, theater costume proposal. Is there a motion? Ms. Guard?
I would like to make a motion that we fill the costume position for the BMHS theater with Ms. Wallendell. She has quite an extensive resume, and it looks like it's a passion. She has the expertise, and so I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion to accept the proposal from Ms. Rebecca Wallendahl for a theater costume designer has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Could I make a point of information for the board? The RFP that was submitted asked for a 3-year commitment on the RFP. I'm assuming the pricing you have in front of you is good for all 3 years.
Well, if you asked for 3 years, so you're saying this would be for each year?
Yes.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's the case. I mean, I can't guarantee you, but if that's what you asked for, and that's what was submitted.
That's her response, yes.
For each year.
Each year.
Yeah.
Yep.
As proposed. Okay. All in favor? We didn't vote.
Yeah, we have a motion.
Your motion, a second.
Motion second, okay. All in favor of accepting this proposal, please say aye and vote online.
Oops. Go back.
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no and vote online. One nay? Okay. So it passes 6-1, and we now have a costume designer for our theater department at Beloit Memorial High School. Okay, the next item is the affirmative action report.
No,
I'm sorry, third-party proposal, third-party interview proposal. Mr. Klatt, would you like to present this, or Mr. Larson?
Kyle, you want me to present, or you want to? It's Kyle's committee, staff committee. We've been talking. We reviewed surveys of staff, quite frankly, and going back 2.5, 3 years to the town hall meetings. With the loss of staff over the last few years, we've lost approximately 225 staff. We did talk about students leaving as well, even though it's not part of our committee. We felt it in the best interest of the district to provide information back to not only the staff, but to the community as to what's driving the loss of our talent, our teachers. And I think there's a correlation between that and student loss. The committee felt it would be better to have an independent consulting firm handle it. The person we talked to is Tracy Shirk, who is here in Beloit, who was part of Honenkamp's original proposal that the last board looked at. She's a Beloit Memorial graduate and knows our community. So there's unanimous on the committee discussion that we use an outside vendor to, one, earn the trust of the community and the staff, and we feel it's money well spent. The difference from this and the surveys in the past is there would be a actual interview, anonymous interview with each teacher that's that left the district. And then also we'll be interviewing any staff member that leaves from January through June. Would have an anonymous exit interview with the independent party. That would then come back to the board in a report as to what is their common issues that we are losing staff, and maybe also find out why we're losing so many students. So that's the proposal. The committee was all in favor of it, and so that's what we have today.
Mr. Larson, did you want to add anything?
I'd like to add that not only is this just the data from the exit surveys, but then it's also actionable steps that we can implement in the district to try to increase our retention rate with our teachers. And then after June, Ms. Carradine and the Human Resource Office would then take over the exit interviews going forward.
I'm sorry, can you clarify that for me? You said after June?
Right. So Ms. Carradine and the Human Resources would take over the exit interviews once we were done with this proposal and the exit interviews. So they're going to go from anyone who would be leaving this year. So I think it actually may go until August.
Until August.
Until August, yes. So once that time period is over, then Human Resources will take over the duties of exit interviews.
So why are we doing it that way instead of saying, let's see how it goes, let's evaluate it and see if we want to continue?
I think because since the town hall meeting, this is a loose end and kind of an unanswered question that's been out in the community about why are our teachers leaving and how can we improve the retention rate. And I know that Ms. Carradine and her staff are in the schools, are working to build the relationship and build the trust so that going forward with any exit interviews that we could get a little bit of a more honest answer. Also, right now we felt that we really did want that honest answer, and the fact of the matter is that when you leave a position in a district, perhaps you're not going to be brutally honest because you may want to go back there sometime in the future, so you don't want to burn any bridges. So using a third party, which all of the people who are interviewed will be completely confidential. So let's say, for example, that only 2 teachers left the high school one year. The data will not be broken down so much that you would be able to identify. Obviously, only 2 teachers, you know who they are. So the data would never be broken down enough where you could identify who said what and gave their responses.
So the motion here says for a specific time. I feel like this is something that is going to really help our district, but we don't know unless we give it a sufficient time. I don't know that 6 months is enough. I wonder how other people feel about this time. Who had it? I can't look both directions, so you guys tell me who's next.
Yeah, I guess my concern is, are we going to be honest with ourselves after the 6 months, once it gets taken over by HR, if we are getting the interviews that we need or that we're getting the data that we think we should be getting? And, I don't even know how we'll know how to judge that at that point. Is it that we're not getting the interviews at that point, or whereas, maybe the third party? And I don't know if maybe that could be part of the process, is determine, if the process through the questions that are asked by Tracy and her group, are they open because it's a third party, or is they open because it's an exit interview? So,
Ms. Gard?
For quite some time, I know the board has been concerned about the survey process. The surveys have changed over the years, and maybe how candid an employee might be when they leave the district. And the committee is recommending the third-party interview process, and we have a contract that does end. But nowhere did I see that HR would take it over after the contract ended. So all you're really looking for tonight is an approval of a third-party contract to look at the exit interviews. And at that time when that contract's over, then I think maybe it can be discussed further. Personally, I think it should continue, but we have a contract for 6 months, or till June of 2019, I think it is.
Mr. Clatt?
I mean, the board at the time can do whatever they want with the data. I mean, if the board at the time wants to continue a relationship, I mean, that would be up to who's ever sitting at these chairs in June or July or August to make that decision. But the hope was that as we find information out and we look at a third party that's bringing a different perspective, that person can also share their HR expertise with our current staff. We're not looking at locking, by the way, our HR staff out of this process. We want them to be actively informed and working as well. But it really is just a starting point to go back in time, because we have unanswered questions in the community, which showed up tonight, by the way, as a trust factor as to does the community trust what we have? There has been accusations that nothing's changed in the last 2.5 years. Rightly or wrongly, that's out there. And so we're trying to get a snapshot of going back to people that were involved in the last 2.5 years and trying to get a snapshot of the next 6 months to get some kind of database that's independent that says, this is what we found. Now, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to continue the process, or do we think we found some links within our own system that we're missing some things that we now need to change the way we work as a district the way we treat people and moving forward. So all it is a way to try to find out how do we get where we're at, and are we still going in that direction, or aren't we going in that direction? And again, the committee was unanimous. That was our charge was, does it make sense? And so that was a recommendation that came out of it.
Ms. Garth?
I would like to make a motion that we accept Chirac Consulting for the third-party interviews and the contract that has been proposed tonight.
I will second that.
Okay. And I just want to say that I feel like this was a move we were trying to do to retain staff. So I hate to see like an end to it. So what you're saying is we will accept the contract, and we're not saying anything about only for a certain period of time. We could very well renew the contract with this firm or with another one at the end of the contract. Okay.
So
all right.
I'm sorry, Joe. So it was unanimous with the committee. Ms. Carradine, you support this as well? You think this will have a positive impact on our district from an HR standpoint?
Well, HR will work in tandem with the association, and we've talked to her back and forth. So what will happen is that she will work with my staff, and we will go through, from the time frame that's in here, we'll go through the exit interviews, and then we have exit interviews currently, and then she's going to help us build question sets for the three different. So we have paras, we have professional educators, and we have administrators. So we'll have three different sets of exit interviews for those groups, so that the questions will be more specific, and it'll get to the root of the causes. And then what she'll do is she'll take the information that we have, as Mr. Klett said, and she will put that all together and get a report so that we can look at it. And then what we're going to do also is take the climate surveys that we have now and kind of, I guess, cross-check it with those, so for those time frames, to see what's going on, so that way you get a very holistic view. So it's not only just the employees, but what was going on in the schools and in the district at that time frame. So that's what they'll look at. And then from there, the reason it goes until August is that we'll come back, make a report to see, is it viable? We'll have something to move forward with at that time.
Okay, now I'm even a little more confused. Who's going to be actually doing the exit interviews? Is it the third party?
They will.
It's all third parties, all anonymous.
Okay, I misunderstood you, then I'm sorry. Okay. Any other discussions or comment at this time? All right. All in favor, please say aye and vote.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Say nay.
Who seconded? I did. Thank you.
Any opposed, please say nay. All right, so I don't see the box to vote yet. Is
There
it
it
just
is.
my, oh, here it is, okay. All right, the motion passes unanimously for the third-party exit interview proposal. All right, now we are down to the 2018-2019 affirmative action report. And Ms. Carradine, are you presenting?
Yeah, I just have a mini PowerPoint, unless I don't have to.
Okay.
Can I ask?
No, please.
Can I ask Tracy a question first? Are you going to handle contacting Tracy Shirk with a contract?
Yes.
You want to do that? Thank you.
I can do that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm presenting the affirmative action report for 2018-19. So sorry, the color. I'll have to use lighter colors next time. Sorry about that.
Wait a minute, let me get my pink glasses.
Yeah, put your glasses on. Okay, so just not to read every slide, I would just like to say that one of the biggest goals of the district is to make sure that students are provided with multicultural role models, multicultural experience, and so that is a large component of our recruitment process for the district. We look at, and that goes across male, female, and then racial. The school district of Beloit is always looking for strategics with regards to recruitment and retention of current, new, and future personnel. Here you'll see we were talking about student demographics, and so our largest ethnic groups are whites, which is 36%, Hispanic, 32%, Black, 26%, and then two or more races is 5%. From 2017 to 2018 school year to 2018-2019 school year, we had a difference of like 297 students, okay? Of the 297 students, it was mainly Hispanic and white students where their numbers dropped slightly. But once again, the gender ratio is equal, so male to female ratio. Okay. Here you'll see I have data. This is our staff composition, so this is all staff. So contractual and non-contractual staff. So I did a 6-year period, so just so we can get an idea. There it is, dark. During that time, during the 6 years, we've hired 79 more staff of color. Currently, staff total is up by 27 people from last year, with 17 being staff of color, okay? Then of the 239 minorities working for the district, okay, we have 153 that are African American, 6 are Indian/Alaskan descent, 71 Hispanic, and 9 Asian, okay? And we're talking from 2013-14 to 2018-19. That's where I get that number from. And then this is kind of a visual so you can kind of see. So if you look on the far right, there's white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, Alaskan, black, and then the total is on the far left. Staff composition, and I think this is important because you kind of look at it because as you're doing recruitment and retention, one of the things is not only teachers of color, but it's also male teachers, particularly male teachers for elementary school. So that's a huge push. They want more male elementary school teachers. And that's across the board. So at a conference I was at, there's a school where her staff is 50-50, 50% female, 50% male in an elementary school. And so you can see it stays steady. For this year, we have 42 males to 142 female. Okay, professional educators. Professional educators make up 54% of our total employees in the district. Male teachers make up 21% of the total of educators for this school year. And the percentage has stayed steady over the years, so we don't lose that many, so it stays consistent. One thing that I like to add, though, is that both staff of color has risen slightly for African American teachers from 6% to 8%, and then a significant growth in Hispanic teachers from 1.4% to 6%. That's a big growth. Here I have hiring in the district, and I just want to say that we had, for the complete, we had 121, and then we broke it down by contractual and non-contractual. And then so conclusion, so areas of growth, I just want to give a quick, so we're talking from 2014 to 2019. Paraeducators were up by 19, permanent subs up by 3, instructional support up by 2, and administration up by 4. And I didn't put the graph in there, but it is in the report. They're in the middle years, so like 15, 16, 16, 17, there was a slump, and then it rose slightly again. We are currently looking at more training and professional development for our hourly staff. We want to focus on them just a little bit more because they're more hands-on, and they get the least amount of training. We do training in the beginning and kind of in the middle and then at the end, but we want to have it where they can have consistent training throughout the school year and in the summer as well. Recruitment efforts are taking the forefront, and the district is looking at new and innovative ways to do more recruitment and retention efforts for the coming years. 3 examples that I give is letters of intent, so contracts, so on-site interviewing. A lot of schools are doing that now because it's so competitive. It's like every teacher is like a free agent now. Working with DPI to become a licensing entity. So the Department of Public Instruction has a big push on having school districts be able to certify teachers. But you will work in tandem with a university, and you could set the classes and the programs. And so we're looking at doing that as well. And then the Grow Your Own efforts. I'm a big component of internships for students because you want to build teachers from the inside outward. So it would be nice if we could get students to work during summer school as classroom aides or support staff in that way. So that's what I have. Any questions?
Anyone? Mr. Wong?
Tracy, out of the hires that you've seen over the, or I guess in the last couple of years or year, I guess you've been here, Are they traditional education students or those that have been professionals, or are they non-traditional coming from other sectors that are being certified?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. So it depends on when you go and when you're recruiting. So in the beginning of the year, they're fresh out of college, and then like halfway in the middle, then you get the ones who this is their second career, or you get some like, for us, we start out with substitute teachers, and then they go to school and get their certification to become teachers. So it's a little bit of both, because you have a lot you see who are doing teaching as a second career, which is very good for us.
Mr. Larson?
I know in the past, I think it's probably been 3 or 4 years, the district used to work with universities and do like a paid internship. I think we had to pay like $5,000, and so people were actually paid to do their student teaching over the semester. And then I think the district got away from that. Is that something we're going back to, or that we're looking into? And is that something like a building would pay for, or that you as the HR coordinator, executive director of human resources would encourage or provide funding for?
So that's still going on. That's the WIP program. So that's through Department of Public Instruction. So that is ongoing. But what I'm talking about is a little separate. I'm talking about using our staff, our students that we have, so that they can get an interest in teaching. So, but we would still do the WIP program as well. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Gard?
And that's where you get the money back. So you pay, and then you pretty much get it back.
Thank you for the report, Tracy. I have several things here. One is I'm happy to hear that you're going to have more hands-on for paras. I understood you to say that there's going to be more training for them.
We're looking at trying to build more training.
Okay.
Correct.
I think that's a great thing. You mentioned that we have 27 more staff this year than last.
Say that again.
I think you mentioned we have 27 more staff this year than last. Is that correct?
So we're looking at it over the years, yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious what area, I didn't write them all down, but is the increase of those staff mainly with paras, or because with our student population decreasing, I'm just curious where our staff and why our staff has increased, the number of our staff.
So that's across the board. So it's paras, it's teachers. We've done a little bit more recruiting that way. So it's a little bit of both. And I mean, we've also done maintenance. We've also got security guards. So it's just a little bit of, it's across the board. Because that's why I put in contractual and non-contractual. I didn't want to separate it out like that. So the numbers that I give you, like I said, the areas of growth were those areas that I mentioned, but it is across the board.
And then I was interested in the percentage of male versus female.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because there's fewer male that go into the field of education? Why is the percentage of male staff so much lower than female? Do you know?
That I don't know, but I can just tell you from having done a lot of recruitment, you do have some male teachers, but they usually do higher education. So they don't normally do like elementary. They do more higher ed. And then a lot of them go into administration, so they don't stay in the classroom long. They move on, but yeah.
Okay, and then I'm wondering about, you said in the future that your department might, or HR departments might have the ability to certify teachers throughout the state of Wisconsin. Is that what you said?
It would be the district. It wouldn't be HR alone.
Okay,
it would be the
district.
Correct, the school district.
Would that require somebody specific to look over? Or, I mean, would we have to add more staff to look at certifying?
Nope, that's the beauty of it, is you can use the staff that you have.
Okay.
And there's also Department of Public Instruction has grants that will help you build it, would help you kind of fund it. And so what you could do is you could even have your staff teach a class, depending on how we build a curriculum. So what I meant by that is you can work in tandem with a college, and then you could have some of your own staff teaching, like if they did an evening class, and then it will cost us a little bit, but there are grants and funding out there for this, because they are just bombarded, and the parameters of getting a teaching license is changing, and there is such a need and a shortage of teachers that the Department of Public Instruction is looking at ways that we can help certify so that districts can have a teacher right away.
I hear passion in your voice when you talk about that. It sounds very exciting to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I have to say that we call DPI, they do answer our calls because we call them so much, but we're working with them quite a bit on the licensing because it's changing all the time.
Thank you for a thorough report.
Anyone else? I have one question, or comment, actually. Total minority administrators, 48.72%. 3 years ago, that number was 5.71%.
What page are you on? Are you in the report?
Page 8.
Okay.
Well, I think that deserves addressing. You know, I mean, I think that's remarkable.
I see, I have it in color. It's amazing because if you look at it from the administrators from 2014 to 15, we had 5.71%. And then it rose from 36 to 47, that was 16 to 17, and then 18. That's remarkable.
So
and I'll just tell you, coming from another school district, this is amazing.
It is amazing. What do you think made this happen? In 3 short years, we went from almost 6 to almost 49%.
As much as I would like to take credit for it, I can't. But I will say that it's your recruitment, your retention. But a lot of this that I found is that a lot of your administrators are homegrown and they come back. So I think that's amazing.
In our school buildings especially,
Correct.
right. But I do notice the Hispanics are still very low.
We're getting there, though.
What is your plan to recruit more Hispanic administrators and teachers, especially teachers?
Well, part of that is that's what I'm saying about becoming a licensing entity, because we do our para population, our para educators, we have quite a few. So if we can just get them from that para educator to classroom teacher, then that number will grow exponentially. So that's why we're working to get that licensing, become a licensing entity, because we do have quite a few paras working in the classroom in our dual language and bilingual. You know, they're working as bilingual paras for us.
And how about recruiting in other areas of the country?
Say that again?
How about recruitment in other areas?
Yep, we're looking at doing that as well. We were in Baltimore, Maryland not too long ago, and we got quite a bit of interest. So we are going outside. And then the other piece too, let me just add, is that for the Department of Public Instruction, the praxis test, so now they've changed it where we don't require it, so we can do more recruitment outside of the state, because we can say, hey, you don't have to take the praxis. So that's a recruiting tool for us as well, to get certified, to get your Wisconsin license.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. All right. Next is teachers on call.
It's me again.
Oh, approve. We need to approve it formally, or okay. All right, Michelle, do we have a voting box here?
I'll make a motion to move to approve the 2018-2019 affirmative action report.
I'll second.
Okay. Wait for the voting box. Is there any more discussion or anything? Okay, there it is. All in favor, please say aye and vote online. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, so unanimously, the presentation is approved. The affirmative action report is approved. Now we have teachers on call, substitute staffing specialists, and Dr. Childs, are you, Tracy, you're again going to present that? Yep. Okay.
You're hot, come on.
And I'm back.
Thank you.
Okay, teachers on call. So I can't take all the credit for doing the research on this. One of my team members, Rochelle Helgestad, she's in the audience, so she helped put this together. So what came about, the reason that we're doing this is because there's a shortage of substitute teachers and support staff nationwide. And so Teachers on Call, which is a Kelly Services company, we're looking at using them to help fill our substitute positions, okay? They've been around since 1999. They're situated in Bloomington, Minnesota, and I guess the selling point was that they're by Mall of America. I thought that was great, but but that's the first thing she said. We're in Bloomington by Mall of America. Teachers on Call partners with school districts to streamline their substitute staffing processes and procedures. And what they do is they use your current substitute pool, but as well as recruit, onboard. They take care of the role of the employer. They do payroll. They do all of that. They also use ASOP or frontline absence management, which is what we use right now. And so they take over that. They use that to fill the position. So our substitutes that we have now would not have to learn a new system because that's already in use. They take over the automation fee of frontline, so they pay that. So that's already wrapped into the cost. So we wouldn't have to worry about that. They would be the go-between for us for that. The cool thing about Teachers on Call is that they're non-WRS, which is Wisconsin retirement system. So if a teacher retires, they don't have to wait, because as the annuity, you got to wait a certain amount of time. They can hire them straight out. So like that would help with long-term sub positions if we would need it. So if a teacher was to retire tomorrow and they wanted to start work, they could start work on Monday because of this. Teachers on Call also tracks hours, and they do offer insurance. So if a substitute para or teacher wanted to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and if they get so many hours, they would offer them health insurance. So which is, and a lot of times the substitutes that we have now, and you always ask, did they leave? Sometimes they leave because they want insurance, so they may get a different job for that reason. Teachers on Call will do training. They do the recruitment. They build the current pool. And then they work in tandem with the Department of Public Instruction regarding training of what's needed to get the substitute teaching license. So they take care of all of that. Because right now we do all of that as well. So like I said before, there's a national shortage. They're non-WRS and the ACA. So that's what they do is they track the subs' hours, offer insurance for those reaching a qualifying threshold. And so they don't have to limit the number of hours that they do work. They also, so this is kind of the reason we're looking at this is because we're trying to find competitive ways. We are the district of choice, so we want to make sure that we keep filling those positions. Teachers on Call offers an incentive program for substitutes who work more. So the more you work, the more incentives you get. They do, from what I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rochelle, they do bonuses. So they have incentive processes that if you work so much, you could get a bonus. They would hire our existing substitutes. And then some of their training, and I highlighted this because before that I was saying that they do training. So some of the trainings that they do is working against racial biases, teachers as a change agent. These are some of the trainings that they do for our substitute teachers. So it's above and beyond what's needed and necessary, but that's what they do. These are some of the surrounding school district that uses Teachers on Call. And it's a pay-as-you-go, so if they don't fill the position, you don't pay for it. Currently, they have a 93% fill rate. Hard cost savings, so they did an analysis for us. And so when you look at hard costs, so what they did is they kind of said, okay, here's the hard lines of the work that you would have to do. So they would handle the payroll taxes. They would work with frontline. They would train the substitutes. They would eliminate advertising. They would do all that. And they conduct the background checks and the drug screen, so we wouldn't have to do that. Soft costs is like paper reduction. It takes time away from your principals and your secretaries having to log in, do the work, or do in-school filling of positions when we don't have enough substitutes. So they would take care of that. So when they give you their, like a sample of what it would look like, they build in hard costs, soft costs. So that's kind of what this is. I know it's a little daunting, but they would do a one-time fee. They talk about payroll, the substitutes, the hard costs, the soft costs, the background checks, license checks, physicals, TB tests, and that kind of thing. And they take care of the unemployment, all that workers' comp. They do all of that. So this is kind of the numbers that we have. We have 534 teachers. We have 192, well, a teacher works 192 days, but I think it's like 170 or 176 days that kids are in school. We have 13 schools, and we pay our subs $105. So you can see kind of like the hard cost breakdowns of what we do right now for substitutes as far as what it costs. So, and I'm asking, so if the board was to approve it, they would start in the fall. They would take over in the fall. But what would happen in the spring is that they would start training our principals, secretaries, and our department would work with them. We'd be the main contact for them. And it's not that we're giving it all to them. So what would happen is human resources would still be over the permanent building subs, the crossing guards, and the security guards. And we would still fill those positions when we needed subs for those. And with Frontline and ASOP, if there's any questions, we would still help them with that. That's what I got. Any questions?
Dr. Charles, did you
Could we request to extend the meeting because it's now 9 o'clock?
You're moving to expand?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, we're extending the meeting. Did anyone have any questions for Ms. Carity? Mr. Larson?
I really want to thank you for bringing this to us because I know that the sub shortage is a huge frustration for our staff, and it has a huge impact on our schools and discipline and the learning that takes place. You know, when there's not a substitute to cover classroom, kids are often divided up and sent to other teachers, or subs are moved around so teachers don't get their prep for that day due to the shortage. So I'm very excited to see this option, and I'm crossing my fingers for the 93% fill rate here in Beloit.
Mr. Wong?
What's the amount of time that we don't have subs or we can't get them? Any percentage?
So I can give you the percentage. So right now, so like for today, we had a 72% fill rate. And sometimes it just depends on the day, the week, or the week before, or week after. It could be a little lower. But we usually stay between 65 and 75% fill rate.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Klatt?
So Tracy, how's that work then? We would still have your own pool that you would work? Because I thought I heard you say you still have your own pool here.
For specific things. So we would still do the substitute filling for crossing guards, security guards, and then our permanent building subs because they're contracted with us. So they would be still our employees.
Okay, and then what was the net savings to the district if we did this program? Did you have a calculation on that?
So now that's an estimation, but they were saying like over $100,000 because they include the soft cost, the hard cost. So that's just a optimistic vision of what it would look like if we use them.
But it also, at the same time, I hear you saying we'd actually increase our substitution rate, which is huge.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And it would give them more options too, because then they can look at health insurance and working outside of retirement.
Ms. Gard?
I'm just curious because there are some local districts that use this. Has anyone from our district talked to any of the substitute teachers that are part of this working in another district and what feedback they might have and how they feel about this?
So I have some background in this, and so Teachers on Call. So what they do is like it opens you up to more districts that you can use. They like it because you have the freedom to work when you want to, and you're guaranteed 4 hours for sure, or a full day, and you can work as much as you want, and you can kind of pick and choose. So you have some people who that's all they want to do is substitute teaching, and they work every day. And so the people that I've talked to, because I kind of did like a mini survey of some of the districts of people that I know, and they do like it. It works pretty well because they get insurance. So that's the hook for a lot of the substitute teachers, that that's all they want to do, and they can still get health insurance.
Dr. Childs?
Just say that I've worked in several districts with Teachers on Call, including when they first came to Madison and to Wisconsin back in 2012. And they've proven to be good partners and proven to be people who keep their word and proven to be people who, if you're having some kind of difficulty, won't leave you hanging. They will come to you and help you work through whatever difficulties you're having. So I have very high regard for them, and I think we'd be well served to contract with them.
Ms. Gard?
Would this be an annual contract? You mentioned, okay, so
Yes.
every year then
We'd have to revisit it, correct.
we'd have to revisit it. Gosh, what would their average pay per day be? Would it be more than what they're receiving now as substitutes?
Nope, it would be whatever rate we set. So
Okay.
that's why I said the 105, so they would still be paid the 105.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about, you know how recently the law was changed that you don't need a bachelor degree to be a sub?
You need an associate's degree at the very least, or credits.
Right.
You have to have over 48 credits to get a substitute teacher license per the Department of Public Instruction.
So, because our board had a discussion about whether or not we liked that idea. And so I wonder, are their teachers a mix, or are they more bachelor degree or more?
It's a mix. And actually, the reason that they opened it up because there was a shortage of substitute teachers. So they put it to associate degree. But let me just say this, though. The ones that have the associate's degrees or they have the credits, they have to do a little bit more training than if you had a bachelor's degree.
Right.
So that's the thing I like. So what happens is if you have an associate's degree or you have the credits, you have to take the coursework before you can apply for your license. So you have to have all that done when you're applying. So if you apply to the school district of Beloit and you have an associate's degree or the credits, you have to be certified already by DPI of having taken the classes. Once you get hired, then you can apply for the license. But if you have a bachelor's degree, we can hire you, then you can go through the program and then apply for the license. So they make sure that you come in prepared.
So we would be utilizing our full-time subs first, and then teachers on call subs. Okay. Any other discussion, comments, questions? No. All right.
Well, let me just correct. You said their subs and our subs. It'd be all one big pool.
Right, but we have the.
I think she was talking about our full-time contract.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So this looks like not an action item, but it is. We need a motion to approve this.
I move approval of the third-party substitute staffing proposal for teachers on call.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 And we will vote online. Okay, any opposed, say nay. All right.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
Teachers on
Thank
call
you.
proposal passes unanimously. Next agenda item is WASB resolutions. And Mr. Larson, would you like to talk about these?
President Charles had, I think last week or maybe even the week before, sent out the resolutions that the Wisconsin Association of School Boards has planned to take to the delegate assembly for the delegates to vote on and approve. So I'm wondering if there are any of the resolutions that you would like me to not support as your representative at the assembly.
Does anyone have anything they need to discuss of the resolutions? Okay, I looked through them. I thought they were all very good. I think ours was very good too, so good luck in supporting it to get back on the agenda. All right, then we don't need to take any action on that. Mr. Larson, you'll be our delegate there and voting for us in favor of all resolutions. Okay. Next item, Policy 830, Rule 3, Partisan and Political Parties' Use of School Facilities, and Policy 830, Rule 4, Use of District Local Access Cable TV Channel. All right. Did I miss something? Or no? No. Okay, because my board docs is bouncing all over the place. I'm sorry. Okay.
I would like to move to approve Policy 830, Rule 3, Partisan and Political Parties, Use of School Facilities, and Policy 830, Rule 4, Use of District Local Access Cable TV Channel.
I will second.
Okay, these are brand new rules, correct? Okay. So we're going to vote on both together. Is there any discussion? Oh, Mr. Klatt.
You just bounce right in front of me every time. My concern is who approves that the political party can use the school because this district in the past has shown preference to one party over the other. Which cost the superintendent his job.
It says here that they may rent the facilities when their activities do not conflict. So I imagine if the activities do not conflict, it would be approved as long as they rent the facilities. Ms. Card? Oh, by who? Our business office does that. Ms. Card.
I'm not sure if this policy was created because of that, but there is a policy that also states that if there is a preference for one party, then the other party also has the opportunity to have the same offer. And I don't know that policy off the top of my head, but I know it came up once a few years ago as well. But my original comment was, I know the Beloit Public Library has a similar policy, but what they have in theirs that this one does not have is that the public is, the entire public is invited. So it's for the public, even though it states political parties and partisan groups, their stipulation is, yes, you can meet, but all of the public is invited. That's the only difference, and I don't see that here. So I'm wondering if that would make a difference or not.
I don't think we do that with other groups. If you're willing to pay to rent the facility, why should we say that everyone should be invited?
I'm just saying that I know the Beloit Public Library has that policy because of it being a government.
And maybe because it's their, maybe they look at it as an educational opportunity. If you're going to hold something there, everyone's invited. But Dr. Childs, would you like to chime in on this?
It's a matter, frankly, of the board's comfort level and what you'd like to do. You're covered if you pass the policy as it is here. If your preference is that partisan use of the facilities must be open to the entire public, then you obviously want to add the caveat to that policy.
I don't know. I like the idea of having, if it is a partisan group, I do understand the fact that they pay to rent the facility. However, if there might be a group that may want to come to organize or what have you, I think they should have that opportunity in the language of our policy.
Is there a set rate for all groups? Mr. Tome, can you tell us an hourly rate if it's not waived? Is there a set rate that everyone pays?
There's a set fee, but then if you need a custodian to be there, if you're doing it off hours, then there's a charge also for a custodian.
Okay, so any group would be charged the same amount? Any political group?
Yeah.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to add something to this policy? This is second reading, Michelle? Yes.
Did you want to make a motion to accept? Yes, you have to second it. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to amend the motion to add in the language of fee waivers. Shall be available for political parties and partisan party activities and the public. Something like that, Michelle, you know.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So,
It would be adding public access, would it not, Mr. Wilson?
thanks, Dr. Childs. That would be precisely what it would be.
So I'm confused what exactly you're.
So we're adding in.
To policy 830, rule 3?
Correct.
Okay.
So that the public also be invited to the partisan and political activities.
Okay, even though we don't do that with any other organizations. That's the motion for an amendment. Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second.
I have a problem with this just because I feel like if you're going to pay to rent a facility, why should you have to let the whole public in? And if you're going to pay for custodian fees, that means, it could be a lot more that you have to pay because all the public was invited. You might have a group of 10 people that want to use a conference room or something for some reason. I'm just saying, is there a reason why we'd want to say the public has to all attend just because it's a political?
I think because it is political or partisan that, the public should have a right to be there. I mean, it's the same, similar to us posting our meetings, and we have to have them in a place where all the public can come.
But it's not an elected body. It'd just be a group of people. They're not an elected body.
Right, but we have to invite the public, and we have to have our meetings public because the public has the opportunity to they have to have the opportunity to come.
Because it's open meetings laws. But Mr. Klatt, what would you say?
I understand what the intent is, but are we opening the door to having protest groups now
Right.
come in against certain organizations? And I think that would be a terrible thing to have in our school where we've got somebody with special interest wants to come in and destroy a meeting that has all good intentions to it. So while I understand what David's saying, I would not be in support of that for that reason.
And I would agree because I think that, we're not saying you're a public body, so you have to have an open meeting. It's someone renting our facility. I don't think we need to tell them who needs to be there. Ms. Gard?
Yes, they are renting our facility that's paid for by the taxpayers. And because the taxpayers pay for everything here, that's why you open it up to the public. Anyways, that's what the reasoning was when I inquired about it at the public library. The city taxpayers pay the staff and the rental and the overhead costs of that building, and because it is open and paid for by the taxpayers, it should be open to the public for all events that are handled. Though I do understand what Jeff brought up regarding protests and all that. Do we really want that? No.
And I think that would be the part that our business office would have to use some discretion. So in screening the people that want to organize or gather in our buildings, then we have to also decide if, that is something that is either aligned with our philosophy or values as a district and community or not. And, if we choose to accept their application, then like Nora says, there's a policy in place that says the other political party or partisan group has the opportunity to gather too. I just think it's important that we don't try to we can't try to not make, I hate to say it, not make protest the option, because that's what it is. Protest is an option. No, we don't want things to be ruined or our facilities to be ruined, but we can't take the opportunity for the public to gather away. So I don't remember what year it was, but when this courthouse was on Bluff Street, and when the Ku Klux Klan came to Beloit, Wisconsin, and they organized here in Beloit, Wisconsin. And so they had barricades up, and I'm sure the Ku Klux Klan did and had the proper permits to rent out the city hall and stand on the roof. But there was public there, and we weren't there because we were invited. We were there just to watch a train wreck. But again, the public should be invited. The public should have an opportunity to organize and be a part of the partisan gathering, in my opinion.
Mr. Wong?
I would be a little concerned about having one person be in charge of approving that, because then you could potentially have partisan issues with that.
It's the business office.
Mr. Klatt?
When we're not talking about renting to the Ku Klux Klan, but my problem with they're paying for the services here, not the taxpayer on this building, and who pays for if the protesters come in and trash our school? Is it the group that put on the meeting that paid, or is it the protesters that we're not going to track that destroyed our school? We are opening up a can of beans by saying if an organization wants to come here, pay the facility charge, they have a right to be here. We have a right to say no to them. And so, but if we have a Republican party in here and the Democrats want to come in, or vice versa, and they want to trash the place and protest, who cleans that up? Why do we want to open ourselves up to that kind of thing? It's a community building to be used for educational purposes, and when we say we're going to let people come in that might want to destroy that meeting, we're asking for trouble. And what kind of message does that send? As an organization provides education, that we're not going to allow people that come in here that paid money to say, well, we're going to protest you because we don't like who you are. I just think it's a recipe for disaster.
Anyone else? Okay, I want to say that, Nora, the policy you're referring to is not about facility use, but it's about presenting different views. So when we allow our facilities to be used by one political party, we do not have to go out and seek out a different one. But hopefully both or all parties would be treated fairly. I think we need to look at what happens to some college campuses lately when some controversial speakers come. It does happen. I don't think that the person that rented the facility should be liable for damages and cleanup if we're saying the public has to come to your event. It's not always an event. It's sometimes just a meeting, just a gathering. We don't need to say the public has to be there, in my opinion. And I don't know what we've done up to this point. Can you tell me, Mr. Tom, as far as political parties in our schools? This is a new rule. So did we take it out of policy and make it a rule? Or?
I haven't heard of any of them coming since I've been here, but I've only been here.
So, I mean, what have we done up to now as far as political parties using the facilities?
None of them have asked you to use the facilities since I've been here.
We had this year an independent candidate for political office who wanted to use the high school auditorium in order to have a rally, in a fundraising rally in support of his candidacy. And what we did was we gave him the facilities use form, even though it's online, and the policies and procedures governing it, and was never followed through on. He looked for something else. So.
Okay, so does this conflict with our political activities in the schools policies, Ms. Gard? No?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Because I don't think so, because on one hand, it's an organization coming to us asking to rent our facility, and in the case that Jeff brought up, in the case when I was on the board that was brought up before, it was our staff who invited individuals from a particular party. And so when staff did that, then other staff had the option to invite the opposing party to come in. So there is a policy that covers what's presented in the building when the administration or staff invite one political party.
We don't have to pass this. We could say we're going to do what we've always done, which is, you know, we don't have to allow any political parties in our school. I'm not sure why we're doing this, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
I think we are opening up a can of worms here. So, with that being said, hold on, let me see. I do think we still need to talk about 830 Rule 4, so could we separate them? Amendment to maybe separate the motion into two.
Well, we do have two motions already. The motion I originally made to approve both of them, then Mr. Wilson's amendment.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment.
Yes.
First of all, all in favor of requiring the public to be present at these gatherings, say aye. And Michelle, do you have a voting box coming up? Okay. Amendment to move to amend the motion to add in language about public access. It's not real specific here, but I'm confused by what's typed here.
It's there. It says move to amend the motion to add in language about public access by innovation to Rule 3.
Okay. All right, so all in favor of the amendment, vote and say aye. All opposed to the amendment, vote and say nay.
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 Okay, the amendment fails, and now we will go to, could we get a motion to separate the two, which I believe were moved as one, correct?
I'll make a motion to separate Policy 830 Rule 3 from Policy 830 Rule 4 so that we would be voting on Policy 830 Rule 3 as one motion.
Okay. So let's first vote on Policy
Just need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Let's first vote on Policy 830 Rule 3. Is there any other discussion? It's moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye and vote aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And vote
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so Rule 3 unanimously fails. Please vote online.
I think that it. Oh, there it goes.
And now we're on 830 Rule 4, if there's a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for approval, Policy 830 Rule 4, District Local Cable Access Channel Use.
I'll second.
Any discussion on this motion? Okay, all in favor of 830 Rule 4? Say aye and
Aye.
vote online.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay and vote online. Okay, Policy 830 Rule 4 passes unanimously. Thank you, and now we are down to approval of application for board committee appointment. We have one citizen who has applied to serve on the infrastructure committee as a parent representative. Mr. Frank McKern, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Frank McKern to the infrastructure committee. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye and vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, vote online, please. All right. Thank you to Mr. McKern for volunteering to serve. And we now have the December 2018 employment recommendations.
If I may
Yes.
just point out that one of the things we put here is an equity issue in regard to our health room resource aides. There was one missing that we missed, and it would be a movement for that person up to, I think the addition was up to $18.49 to bring that person to equity with the two other people at that level who are licensed practical nurses. Everybody else would be at the rate of $16.98 per hour. We can do one of two things with the one that we failed to get on the report. That would be to simply add it here. The other would be to defer it to January.
I would prefer we defer it so that we have it written when we accept it.
That's fine.
Mr. Pratt?
If you defer, you're going to retroactive back to December?
Be fine with that.
Could do that,
That's-
sure.
That's fine. I
Sure.
just want it for the public.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm
everything
just
on
saying do I need a motion to make it retroactive back to,
there. We will need it then, when it comes.
all
we'll
right.
need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that information. Is there any, well, do we have a motion for this yet? Okay,
You don't have a motion yet?
Mr. Klett?
I'll make a motion to accept the personnel recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, personal recommendations are made and seconded. Is there any more discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Clegg.
I would just like to know if there's a reason the two in the very last box that resigned are paying the fee. Do we know why they resigned?
Two in the very, okay, yeah. Ms. Carradine, could you help us with that, please?
Coleman and Peterson. Both resigned. Both resigned and are paying a penalty?
So, one is for personal reasons, the other one got a job somewhere else.
Why is the penalty? 2 years service.
Well, that's part of the policy because
It's in their contract.
resign in the middle of their contract.
Oh, because of the timing.
Yeah.
I see. Is there any other discussion on that?
I actually see, I think, quite a few more declined offers kind of all across the board than I've seen before on the personnel recs. I'm wondering, is there kind of like a generalization that you could provide for us about those declined offers?
So, for some of the declined offers they were hired because they never worked. And the other one was they got a different position, utility position. So it was like, we were like, oh, okay, I accept the offer, and all of a sudden, oh, no, you gotta do this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion here? All right, all in favor of approval of the personnel recommendations, Exhibit A? Say aye.
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 Aye, and then voting online? Please vote online. Okay. Personnel recommendations are unanimously approved. And now we have the naming committee for new administrative building. Mr. Larson.
If I may, this was actually something that just came up at our last infrastructure committee meeting
great.
where Mr. Winters thought that maybe we would start working on that at the infrastructure committee.
Okay, excellent. There are some people that feel strongly that it should be left, the Colic Education Center, and some people that would like it changed. So I think that would make a good discussion at the committee level, and maybe you can bring back some ideas. Ms. Gard?
I do know, and maybe your committee knows, that there is a policy specifically stating how that committee, a naming committee, would be brought forward. And I don't know if that's on your agenda, but I would look at that policy and then bring forward to the full board what you come up with by reviewing that policy.
Do you have any idea if it starts in committee level?
I was on a naming committee before, and I believe that the board appointed a naming committee, and then it wasn't at the committee level, it was at the board level that it was created, from what I remember, but it's been a few years.
Okay.
I didn't see this, otherwise I would have done some research on that.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to say about the naming committee? Do we want it to go to committee, or do we want it to just come to the next board meeting with? Ms. Sanchez.
Okay, I see policy 950, naming of schools, facilities, and properties.
Yes.
So the Board of Education assumes the responsibility for naming or renaming schools, facilities, and properties in the school district of Beloit. So,
Okay, so it's
that
not
would be
sounding-
us.
Yeah, it's not sounding like it's a committee item then, according to policy.
And then the board appoints like an ad hoc.
It says the Board of Education believes naming facilities, buildings, wings, rooms, playgrounds is a matter of great importance, one that deserves thoughtful attention. The Board of Education shall establish written procedures to be utilized as guideline.
Okay, so this should come back to us in January at our televised meeting. And Ms. Gard, on the last one you served on, how many people were on that committee?
Oh, there were at least 6, maybe 8.
And there is a committee.
and I believe it was set up as an ad hoc committee.
Mhm.
So there was a time frame, and all of the members were approved by the board.
Okay.
So whatever we discuss in January, then the slate of individuals that included the community, I believe that there was an announcement in the paper too, if you were interested in serving on the committee, then that would come back to the board. So whatever direction we decide to do this, we need to do it like in January, sometime in January or early February, vote on who you would want on that committee. Then it would have your time frame and your charge.
So give me some suggestions. Would you like to bring names forward?
Okay, new clarification. It's getting late. Did I hear you when you read the policy that there is a naming committee, or is the Board of Education responsibility?
It's our responsibility.
And
So
why
there's a Rule
am I
one-
naming a committee if it's a Board of Education responsibility?
Because it would be an ad hoc committee.
No, I'm asking, why do I need an ad
I'm
hoc
gonna
committee
tell
if
you.
it's a board responsibility?
Because I think it's, I mean, personally, I think it's past practice, not only that, but it also brings the community in to assist with, to have input and assist with it. 1 second, please. And I think community input is always good. The board has the final say on the name. We can, just what I explained earlier about ad hoc committees, they can bring a recommendation and we can say, we're not going with it or we are going with it. We still have that responsibility of approving it. Ms. Sanchez.
So there's a Rule one
Oh,
that goes
good.
around along with 950, which is the process, which is naming a committee. So, and it includes a list of members that should be included in the committee.
Yes.
So.
Okay.
You could have said electric, you said that right away.
I was looking at policy, Jeff.
I tried to get her to call me, but.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So, yeah.
Anytime you have something really urgent, just say, point of clarification, and then we'll stop and we'll read that rule. But in the meantime, it all turned out fine. Do you want to bring some names back for recommendations to the next board meeting?
That committee no longer exists.
Is everyone okay? Okay, Mr.
I'm sorry,
Larson.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Because the policy does continue to read, the Finance, Transportation, and Property Committee shall make a recommendation to the full board. So,
What are they making a recommendation on if the committee is the one doing the work?
so it says the Board of Education may appoint a special committee to review this suggestion and make a recommendation to the Finance, Transportation, Property Committee of the board to accept or reject the suggestion.
Okay, and I think that's because we used to have it where everything went through committee, but everything doesn't now. So I think it's okay to skip that. I mean, if you want to put it on the infrastructure, it would just be a step we're saving if we don't.
I'm fine with not doing it, but I just wanted to ask for clarification.
Okay.
Policy needs to be updated.
We should update the policy now that we're
No,
reviewing it.
It's just the agenda.
Is everyone okay with each of us bringing, let's say, 2 names to the January business meeting? And then from those 2, we each submit, hopefully enough people will accept the invitation to serve.
So it.
Yes, we can ask for.
So it
Sanchez?
outlines specifically what
Okay.
type of members need to be included in this
What does
committee.
it say?
So it says 2 members of the board appointed on a yearly basis by the board president, 1 building level administrator of a facility not being considered for name change, 1 central office administrator, 1 person from the building involved, 2 persons from 2 other school locations, 2 members of the community, 1 person from the historical society, and 1 person from the landmarks commission.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
So it outlines specifics.
Okay. So, 2 community members.
Yeah.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it looks like we're going to be selecting people from the buildings mostly.
Mostly.
But does it say only 2 community members?
2 members of the community.
Okay.
May I suggest that you and Dr.
Please.
Childs work it out and just, we'll get it done.
We'll just put it on the agenda for
Yes.
January? Okay. Does the policy say anything else?
Please say no.
All right, that sounds good. We will work it out and bring back a list of people to the January meeting to serve on this committee for naming the new building. All right. Now we are down to building use and waiver report.
This is
Okay, Mr. Tom,
It's just information only, there's no action.
okay, so,
just showing who's in our building.
so these are the organizations that have been using our buildings?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that report. Future board meeting dates. The next business meeting, as we discussed earlier and voted on, will be January 29th at 7 p.m. It's likely that we'll have 1 or 2 special meetings before that, but we don't have the dates yet. For some reason, we don't have future agenda items. I skipped it. So future agenda items. Do board members have anything they would like to discuss? Future agenda items. Mr. Klatt.
Yes. I want to understand more on the 17% recline in the Fs, what that actually means, and was there a change in the way we looked at grading? What drove the change of 17%?
Okay, great. Anyone else? Okay, I've asked Dr. Childs to prepare a presentation to the board in January, superintendent presentation to the board on a review and evaluation of our progress on the strategic plan. Okay? So that'll be superintendent presentation to the board January. All right, if there's nothing else, is there a motion? Michelle, have we completed everything? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, we're going to be adjourned and we're going to return to room 106 to complete our closed session meeting. Thank you.